Welcome to Psychology Today. I'm your host, Ann Morrow. Thank you for watching. Our show is about bicycling in general and the celebration of our local cyclists. Our guest is owner of Portland's own Killer Queen Cyclery, Rachel Cameron, and she is the rare female bike shop owner and accomplished bicycle mechanic. We'll learn more about what drives her passion and what she brings to our cycling community. I think by the end of the interview, we'll learn why we should treat our bicycle mechanics with respect and reverence. We hope Psychology Today helps inspire you to ride a bike and be more mindful of safety. Those of us that volunteer for Psychology Today believe there's an abundance of bicycle activity to celebrate in the Portland metro area. And we endeavor to introduce you to people who are helping our community of cyclists. I want to share a quick thank you to our capable crew behind the scenes, volunteers who make our show possible. All right, let me introduce Rachel Cameron. And welcome, Rachel. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And I always like to learn just a little bit of non-bicycle-y background about our guests before we get going. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I grew up in a town of 100 people in Pierpont, South Dakota, where I would ride my bike from my town to another town to go to school. It was only, 10 miles or so away, but that's where I started riding bikes. And then I went to college in Rapid City, South Dakota, and there was a pretty good mountain biking scene there because there was ski lodges that were also mountain biking areas that were very nice. So that's when I really started getting into the more competition-y aspect of cycling.
So what brought you to the Portland area?
I wanted to get closer to water.
Oh.
I had always wanted to have a boat or learn how to surf because South Dakota is very landlocked.
Yes, very.
Pretty landlocked. And I had some friends from Rapid City who had moved out the year before and said, you can just come stay on our couch. And so I did that. Actually didn't end up staying on the couch. I got the apartment above them.
Oh.
But it was just a place that I'd always I had heard it was like the dream for cycling. So I came out here for that and to get close to the water and close to the mountain at the same time.
Yeah, and that you're right. That's a plus.
Yeah.
You don't have to go very far, and you've got something.
Yeah.
North, south, east, or west. So you talked about, you rode from one town to the other to bicycle. So that was kind of utilitarian kind of cycling, but like a real passion, gee, I want to do this. You talked about mountain biking. Was that kind of the beginning of really a passion for cycling?
It was. It's just the beauty of going down a trail and seeing things run out of your path and the birds and just the beauty of the trail. It really struck something with me, and I've carried that with me ever since.
Okay, so more getting into nature as compared to road biking can be a little bit that way, but you got cars buzzing by too.
Yeah,
maybe there's nature over the side. But
so I guess the nature part of it was a big deal for me, but then then the utilitarian nature of commuting. And that also led me to enjoy road cycling, because once I didn't enjoy it as much in South Dakota because there's no shoulders and things there for a comfortable riding experience. But when I got out here, just the ride to Multnomah Falls. So you can ride here to Multnomah Falls, and it's all road, and it's beautiful the entire way. And the experience of like riding from Portland to Multnomah Falls, grabbing some lunch at the lodge, and then riding back, it's incredible.
It really is. And I think it takes somebody like you to remind those of us who have been here longer how incredible it is, because we start to take it for granted.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And so you talk about you've done mountain bike riding and you've done road bike riding. Have you done any other kinds of bicycling?
Cyclocross is sort of my forte.
Oh, okay.
Just did a cyclocross race for Halloween. I'm going to do another one on Sunday. That's my favorite because it's all of your friends in a short. It's basically a circuit race because you're just doing small laps, so you can cheer your friends on the whole time.
Yes.
But it's the mud and the technicality and just the fun of it that I love.
So are you doing? Is it Cross Crusades? Is that?
I did.
So
yeah,
you were
Cross
out at,
Crusade. Yeah.
Where was it?
Cascade Locks this weekend.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I went out there to watch my son actually on Saturday.
Yeah, we rented like a karaoke machine and our team had a blast. Yeah.
You really lived it up. Good for you. Yeah, it is a lot of fun. Yeah. How long have you been doing cyclocross?
Since I moved to Portland, which was in 2014.
Okay.
So, since then.
Cool. Okay. All right. So as we move towards 2022, what kinds of ridings do you see trending, and what are you and your friends doing or thinking about doing other than what we've talked about already?
A lot of people are really into gravel right now. Gravel is a hot ticket item right now. And it's easy because you can use a road bike, you can use a mountain bike, you can use a cyclocross bike, and you can just put different tires on them, and then it's a perfect gravel bike. So it's kind of easy. There's no real barrier to entry as long as you already have a bike.
Yeah.
Which is good because cycling is expensive.
Yes. So any kind of transfer from one to another. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think gravel's going to get bigger. In the Portland area, I see a decline in road and I see a decline in track, mostly because we lost our velodrome.
Yeah.
And we've lost a couple of road races, also like series road races.
Yeah.
So I think that off-road riding is going to get bigger because it costs less money to put on one of those races.
Okay.
And it's also a lower barrier to entry.
Okay. Good insights to that. Okay. All right. So how do you even get a chance to ride owning your own business?
I don't really. It's you only have to do like a few hours a week really to really get still the beauty of riding. It's not like you have to ride and crush it every week to enjoy cycling. So I live in North Portland, so I try to do Kelly Points, do Hayden Island, just do short rides that I know I'm gonna enjoy. And unless I have like a day that I can commit to like a longer ride, I just try to do small rides that are gonna be somewhat easy for me and bring me a little bit of happiness.
So it's not, cyclocross is something you do fun. It's not super like, I got to win this race. It's we're out there having fun.
Yeah.
And then and your riding is kind of, a mental thing, it sounds like it's a therapeutic thing in a way, not just.
Several years ago, before I owned the shop, I was more competitive in cyclocross.
Okay.
So I think that and that I think that has to do more with me than with the owning of the shop. I think my priorities transitioned. And I was raised up in categories, so now I'm a Cat 3 instead of a Cat 4. So I know I see all my teammates going on rides and they're having the time of their lives, but so am I. So we're all having fun. That's the biggest part of it, really.
Good.
Like if you want to be competitive in cyclocross, you're gonna need to train not just on the bike, you have to do, because you're running half of it.
Good point. That upper body to lift the bike up.
So yeah, I love everyone that has the time and the ability to train, and I am there to support them and cheer them on every single race. But I am going to be happy with my near to last place finishes.
Good for you. I think that's wonderful. If you're having fun, go for it.
Yeah.
Good.
A goat beat me last week, actually.
I saw it. Oh, okay. Well, I don't have a comeback for that. I'm sorry. So down to business. You're the only woman-owned bike shop in North Portland. And so tell us about your journey into a male-dominated arena.
Yeah, so it actually took, so I worked for, the first bike shop I ever worked for was run by a woman. And that shop closed in like 2017. And then I kind of bounced around from shop to shop for a year or 2 years. And then I decided that I just wanted to open my own, and that was about the same time that my friend was closing his. And so I just took over his lease.
I see.
So there was already an established bike shop there. So he moved all of his stuff out. I moved all of my stuff in. And it worked out fine.
Wow. So kind of planning and kind of just
It was kind of luck and kind of planning.
Yeah, serendipitous.
I was planning on opening only a wheel shop, just doing wheel builds and tubular glues, because I'm one of the only places that does tubular glues, which is race-specific thing that a lot of shops don't do. And around that same time, he was like, "Hey, I'm not going to renew my lease. Would you like to take it over?" So
was there some trepidation, or did you jump at it?
There was a little trepidation, but yeah, at the end of the day, I went for it.
Good, good. So what's the significance of your business name? It's Killer Queen Cyclery.
It is fully the Queen song, Killer Queen.
Okay.
And I hope they don't sue me for that. And then Cyclery. So when I was trying to name the shop, I wanted it to either be 1 word or 3 words, so that you could. So it has really very basic. So I either wanted it to be like initialized 3 words or just have 1 word, and that's just what I fell on, because I only had a few months to decide on a name.
Yeah.
So.
And tell us about, so you've got a lot of professional accomplishments, and the first one that is listed is USA Cycling and UCI Certified Race Mechanics. So first of all, what does UCI mean?
It's the Union of Cyclists International. So it's USAC, which is USA Cycling, but it's the entire world.
Okay.
So you basically just have to take courses with them, and then take a test at the end, and then you pass. It's pretty intensive. You have to, so for the USA Cycling one, you have to go to Colorado Springs and go to the Olympic Training Center and spend a week learning. It's a lot of lectures and a lot of hands-on. And then at the end, you pass this written test, and then they give you your license.
I see.
So if you want to work at any USA Cycling or UCI events, you have to have these licenses. And there's not a lot that happen in Oregon, just because the nature of our racing system here. There's a lot that happened in Washington and Idaho, so sometimes I travel.
Oh.
The last one I did was in Wisconsin. So I do a lot of traveling for racing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fairly easy to, once you get those licenses, you can become just a traveling mechanic. And so I did that for a little while. My last one was in Wisconsin in August, I think.
Okay.
I left Portland for a week and did Wisconsin for a week. which
Well,
is just fun.
Yeah, you're really mixing it up. So you're also a professionally trained Shimano, SRAM, Campagnolo, DT Swiss.
Yeah, so a lot of those classes were done by the Professional Bicycle Mechanics Association, and they did a class here in Portland, I think in 2017. So some of those, the DT Swiss one and the Campagnolo one are from the Professional Bicycle Mechanics Association training, and then the SRAM training also took place in Colorado Springs because that's where they're headquartered. So you go there and just do hands-on training for a while. The Shimano one was a part of the Professional Bicycle Mechanics Association one, and then you also can do a lot of it online now. Which is cool. So every year that they release new things, they update their training online, so you can go back and renew your training.
Oh, nice. That makes it a little easier. So, and then you are certified by the Professional Bicycle Mechanics Association,
I am,
so it all
yes.
kinds of ties together. So how did you know this kind of career was going to be a fit for you?
I didn't know. I started working at Portland Bicycle Studio when I first moved out here in 2014. I worked there until they closed in 2017. And I was going to school. I was going to PSU for urban planning for transportation development. And then when Portland Bicycle Studio closed, I kind of realized that there was also a woman-owned shop. So I was like, there's such a lack of representation of women in this industry. So when I opened my shop, I started, like we had the poker run, that was our opening party, but we had women's wrenching nights.
Oh, okay.
Like women trans and femme wrenching nights. I kind of wanted it to be more of like a community hub, like to get women more involved in bikes. So we did a lot of rides and things like that, and then pandemic hit, but.
Yeah, yeah, that's too bad. I mean, just reading about this, it really seemed like you really were getting community involved, and then it got shut off.
We will again, but.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. So, so you've described your niche, I think. But how would you describe what you see as your niche in our community?
I think my shop is a racing focus, like racing, like cyclocross specifically, and getting more women and non-binary and trans people into cycling, which it's hard because it's such a expensive sport. So if you want to race your bike, you have to have a bike.
Yes.
You have to be able to pay the $50 race entry fee.
Yes.
You have to be able to get to the race. And there's not a lot of them that actually happen in Portland.
Right. So, like you say, Cascade Locks. That's a trek out there.
So that's what we're focused on this year, is for next year to be able to maybe provide some of those services. It's been hard since the pandemic. And there was 2 years of no racing, basically.
Yes.
But so I opened as hoping to be like a race-specific shop, working on bike racers' bikes and things like that, high-end stuff. But I think that it's going to be more, it's definitely been more community-based. There's a lot of people that come that are just commuters and just need their bike worked on. And that's a need that I've been able to fulfill, which is great.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's just really interesting to hear about your journey here. So describe a typical work day at your shop.
I usually get there about 9, and then sit on the computer for a couple hours, ordering new parts. Parts have been really scarce.
Yes.
So every day, like, I check my email to see if those new parts are in stock that I wanted, and then order those. And then go through the list of bikes that need to get worked on, prioritize them. I do have a couple employees, so they will come in and I'll say, all right, this bike needs this and that, and yeah, it's just, and I'm just working on. It's this time of year is interesting because there's a race every weekend.
Yeah.
And so every weekend I see someone at the race that's like crashed their bike, and they're like, I'm coming in on Monday, and I'm like, okay. So it's like it's also like crunch time because like they're gonna need their bike the next weekend. So
yes,
they come in on Monday, and then they're gone by Saturday or Friday or Saturday or whatever. And yeah, so this time of year it's basically just race bikes that I'm working on, but in a few months it'll be commuter bikes. And then in the spring, it'll be road racing bikes. It really varies every time of year.
Yeah, I guess it does. So you've described how, you've kind of modified your shop as you see a need. But is it what you expected? I mean, when you bought this, when you took over this guy's lease, and you had a certain vision of what it would be like, how is it different?
It's it's a little different than I thought. I thought it might be a little more, I guess it's hard to say because the pandemic struck not too long after.
Well, that's true.
So I was banking on those racing seasons. But it's actually been busier than I thought it was going to be. So I was like, I can just do this myself, and turns out I couldn't. So I had to get a couple of people to help me, which they're great. So, and then just like small problems that you wouldn't expect, like the roof's leaking. Sort of things like that. Those are things I wasn't expecting. But like as far as like the bikes that I work on and the customers, like, they're all great, and it's everything that I was kind of expecting in that scenario.
So what have you had to learn on the fly? Because you know the mechanics and stuff. Was there something that you found out, oops, I really don't have that skill?
There are a lot of, like, every year it seems like each company, like SRAM, Shimano, Campanella, they're coming out with new things. So there is constant training going on there. But it's not so much learning it on the fly. It's a lot of it to me is like knowing when you don't know what you're doing. So just taking a pause and calling someone or.
So I guess you had worked in other bike shops, so you learned a lot of the aspects of running a business, of working with other employees, that sort of thing. So that wasn't new to you.
No, yes, that wasn't super new to me.
Okay.
But it was more challenging when I was the one that had to pay the bills and do all that stuff. Like, it's different than just clicking the order button.
And not seeing the invoice come in and having to write the check.
So that was a little new.
Painful.
Dang.
So you've talked about how the pandemic has affected the business. Between parts, getting parts, and
the hardest part has not been actually making like customers. Like customers were still coming in, so money was still coming in. But it was that I couldn't order like chains or brake pads because they were just completely out of stock, and they're still it's a problem. I can't get 11-speed chains. The ETA says June.
Whoa.
So I'm sure it'll be different. I'm sure they'll come in before that. But yeah, like a few weeks ago I was out of 9-speed chains and couldn't get those. And so it's just been hard. Like if someone comes in and I'm like, I want to help you, I just can't get the part that you need. And so that's been kind of a struggle. And people are pretty understanding, which is awesome of them. But yeah, it's been kind of hard.
Yeah. Well, real quickly, before we go to a break, I wanted you to talk to us. You mentioned you did this, you're community involved. You're thinking about the community and how to have fun with them. And so in January of 2019, you organized a poker run. And so tell us about how that idea evolved. What was the genesis of that and how it worked?
So yeah, that was my grand opening party, basically. And it evolved from, I'm from South Dakota, and we're famous for the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally.
Right.
And I'm from a town called Pierpont that has its own little motorcycle rally. And they did a poker run there. Every year there's a poker run there, and you go from place to place and get a poker card. And all the money goes to charity, but based on how fast you are, you get a better card. And at the end, you play your hand. And so it was basically the same premise for this ride. There was different checkpoints that you went to, and you got a card. I had different things you could do, like you could roll dice to try to get a better card, or answer a riddle to try to get a better card. But yeah, it was mostly just a fun grand opening party that the proceeds all went to the street trust, and we had a poker hand at the end, and it was fun.
It sounds like it, and I just really like the idea of trying to incorporate something a little different, a little goofy with, running or biking or whatever, not just, okay, I got this ride, you take this route and you're done. So
yeah.
So I hope we see more of that from you. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll have a safety video, and then we'll return with more psychology today and our discussion with Rachel Cameron, and then we're going to kind of pick her brain on mechanical tips for our own machines. So let's watch a safety video.
Bike safe, bike smart. Hi, my name is Xander.
And my name's Elizabeth.
Over the next few minutes, we're going to have some fun and talk about some pretty important stuff.
Some of it you've heard before, but it never hurts to hear it again.
And again.
And again. So here we go. Did you know that just falling off your bike is enough to get a serious brain injury? So play it safe. Wear your helmet every time you ride. It can reduce the risk of head injury by up to 85%.
And that's a lot. The helmet should be snug on your head and sit flat. The strap should form a V under your ear, and the chin strap should also be snug. 2 fingers should fit in between your eyebrow and your helmet.
Also, make sure your helmet meets safety standards. Look for a sticker that says CPSC. This stands for the Consumer Product Safety Commission.
All the stuff we talked about today is common sense.
But you still need to think. Be courteous and be predictable by always riding in a straight line.
Wear a helmet. And follow the rules of the road. Ride with traffic on the right side of the road. Ride single file.
Obey traffic lights and traffic signs. Check behind you before turning. Use proper hand signals.
Stop, look left, right, then left again before entering a street. And use caution at an intersection.
Make eye contact with other drivers. Be careful around parked cars and watch for objects in your path.
And at night, be seen to be safe.
Never assume that motorists or pedestrians will see you. Remember, bikes are smaller than cars, and if there's a crash between the two, any guesses who will win?
That's all the time we have. So remember these 4 words. Bike safe, bike smart.
So I encourage you to look at that video again if you need to, or look at any video to have a proper helmet fitting. And look in the mirror, look at your helmet, see how it fits on your head, and go through all that, because that is essential for safety. So I want to take this opportunity to encourage you to ride a bike. We're into fall riding now, and there's a little rain here in the Pacific Northwest, but that shouldn't stop your roll. Watch the weather, pick your time, get out and ride. Get some fenders, not only to keep you drier, but to protect that poor soul behind you. Get rain gear as you can, and repurpose some of the other outdoor gear that you might already have into your cycling wardrobe. Organizations are already planning their 2022 rides. Those are event rides that you pay to ride, but you get fed and they have porta potties and things available. So that might be anything from the Bridge Pedal in downtown Portland, or something like a whole week doing Cycle Oregon, riding around the state of Oregon. So not to mention there's the gravel rides we've talked about with Rachel, and bike camping and bike touring, or maybe you want to try cyclocross. So build on the foundation of fitness that you might have, or start building that foundation in the winter. And then when the good weather comes, that will allow you to pick the ride you want to do, and you won't have to sit on the sidelines because you don't feel like you can really be a participant. So however you roll, I'd encourage you to go to portlandbicyclingclub.com. I belong to Portland Bicycling Club, and we have a bike ride pretty much every day of the year. So there's something for everyone. We do road riding, but some of our members are putting out some gravel rides too. So check that out. And now we're going to get back to our guest, Rachel Cameron, and we're going to pick her brain about the mechanic persona of Rachel. And I've got some questions about taking care of our bike. So let's see here. Before we get into that, we talked about your poker run, and you also did a unity ride, and it was for killer queens and working bees, and like you mentioned before, it was for women, trans, femme, and non-binary. And so what was the genesis of that event?
So that was actually through the brains of friends of mine. While I was unable to work and injured, they wanted to do a ride for me, and so it started out with just one ride, and that's why it was called the Killer Queens and Working Bees ride. It still lives on, and it is the PDX Unity ride now. Still women, trans, femme ride, and it's so that because cycling is so male dominated, that women and non-binary folks and trans people can meet each other and have a safe space to ride bikes and be happy and just go on. They're usually fairly short little rides. They post them on the PDX Unity Ride Instagram every week. I think now that it's the rainy season, they're starting to do them only twice a month. But so you can find them at PDX Unity Ride and join their rides, and it's a very chill pace, very inclusive and fun ride to get to know each other, so that when you're at a big bike event, you don't feel like you're the only person there that looks like you.
And I imagine that, like I think you kind of alluded to, it's encouraging to one another. Like you might talk about the upcoming cyclocross race, and because I talked about it to you, then you feel more like, oh, I should go,
yes, rather
than I'm not going to go, I won't know anybody, I don't even know what to expect.
Yep.
And that makes a huge difference.
It does. It really does, because it's very intimidating. You're going to somewhere you've never been before to pay $50 to get on your bike for 45 minutes. So it's very intimidating in that respect. And this ride sort of tries to help people just get to know each other.
Yeah.
So that when you get there, you have other people that you can just talk to.
Right.
Or see.
Yes. A face you recognize.
Yeah.
Not all strangers. So that just sounds like such a great thing for our community. I really like that. So one comment in your publicity too was, we need to know one another. So how do you see events such as your Poker Run and Unity Ride serving that conviction that we need to know one another?
I think that it serves just like when I first got to Portland, I would go to races and I wouldn't know anyone, and I would go and I would race and I would leave, and I wouldn't say hi to anyone because I didn't know anyone, whether they're a man or a woman or a non-binary person. It didn't matter. I didn't know anyone.
Right.
And we need to know each other so that we want to, like, I didn't even want to go anymore. And if we're going to save Oregon bicycle racing, we need to want people to show up. And it's just it's hard to recruit new people if they don't know anyone. So getting people together to know each other before racing or before the season even starts is a good starting place. If you know that your friend is going to be there, you're more likely to show up, and it takes a little bit of the cut of the $40 cost off.
A little bit.
Not much, but yeah. And so what we're also trying to do in the future is it's not going to happen this year because the racing season is almost over, but next year we're going to try to do where we can subsidize some of those costs for new racers. And there's races like Trophy Cup that didn't happen this year because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So they canceled the whole series. But Trophy Cup is a weeknight series in September that allows beginners to race for free.
Oh, okay.
So that's also like a good. So we were aiming for that, but then they canceled again this year because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, which makes sense.
It does. Well, I really like the way you're thinking and your foresight, and you're just kind of really branching out and building community. Just not just in cycling, but that branches out to everyone so that there's support and communication and stuff. So it seems like you're doing a lot of good. So thanks. I really appreciate what you're doing, your passion and stuff. So now we're going to get the mechanic out.
All right.
So when you think about safety on a bicycle as a mechanic, what's the primary thing you first think about?
Brakes.
Got to stop. Okay. That's a simple answer. So what would you identify as the most frequent mechanical problem that you see at your shop?
The thing that most people come in for, usually people come in for a flat tire, and then I'm like, oh, well, your brakes also don't work, or like your gears aren't shifting. Would you like me to adjust those? So usually it starts with something that's like a flat, where they have to bring it in so that they can ride. But I've seen people skidding around with their shoes so that they can stop. And so I would say brakes are the utmost thing that I want people to have worked on. And it's so cheap to have them worked on usually. But other than that, it's usually really simple things that people just let go for too long, like bearing adjustments that will take 10 minutes in the shop, that if you let them go for a year, now you need new bearings. So I would say just bringing your bike in more frequently is going to cost you so much less in the long run, because you can save so many parts, and also just cleaning your bike if you're riding in the winter in Portland.
Yeah.
So.
and we'll touch on that a little bit more. So, and in fact, that's what we're going to do right now. So we're like to focus on safety, and maintaining your bike is a big thing about safety. So the first item would be to keep your bike clean and use SED, especially in the winter in Portland. So tell us the whys and wherefores.
Well, if you keep your bike clean, so let me say, if you don't keep your bike clean, the dirt and the grime from the road, there's also it's not always just dirt and grime. Sometimes it's metal shards from if you're riding on bike lanes and such. They get into your brake pads, they get into your gears, and they will tear your bike apart, especially the brake pads. So if you can keep those clean, and if you can keep the gears clean, all it takes, if you're in a small apartment, it's harder. You don't have a lot of space.
Yeah.
What I've done when I lived in small apartments, put the bike in the shower.
Oh.
And then as newer apartment complexes have the dog washes, you can use those.
Oh, sure. Ooh, good tips.
Yeah, yeah. And then otherwise, if you have a yard, you can just use a hose. Just hosing it off after like a long, dirty ride will save you a lot of money and make you so much more safe, because it's not tearing your bike apart as much. The like little pieces of gravel and sand that can get in there with the dirt and the grime will tear apart your drivetrain, make your chain wear out a lot faster. So if you're spending $80 on a chain, if you've got a 10, 11 speed bike, it's going to save you a lot of money if you can just keep that clean.
And like you just said, right now you might not be able to get a chain, so you'll be afoot.
Yeah, right.
So you really want to take care of it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the drivetrain, and you want to lubricate that. What does that involve?
So every time it's very simple. Only lubricate your chain, unless if you're spraying your bike off, you might want to lubricate some of the cables, which would just be, don't ever use WD-40 on your bike.
Oh, yes.
Do not ever use WD-40 on your bike. You can buy chain lube for usually like $10 at a bike shop, or any sort of PTFE lube you can buy at hardware stores. I don't know what PTFE actually stands for, but I know that it's a very thin synthetic lube. So that will actually work for your cables and your chain also. So you can just drop a few drops on that. And you don't want to over lubricate things too, because if your chain is really wet from grease, that will just, every time you get dirt, it'll just stick to it. So once you lube stuff, just wipe it off with a rag also. So put lube on your chain, let it sit for a second, wipe it off with a clean rag, and then you're good to go.
That sounds like anybody can do it. Inspect the tires.
Yes, you should also inspect your tires. Usually it's fairly easy because you're either going to have tread on your tires. If you've got a wider, more mountain or hybrid style tire, you'll have some tread, and you can notice the wear on those. If you have more of a road style tire, there's going to be dots, little tiny dots that indicate the wear. And any bike shop would be able to show you where those dots are and how to look for them. But also just another way to figure it out is if you're getting flats consistently, you need new tires. It's a pretty good signifier that you need new tires.
Everybody I've seen, that was true. Including myself. And you know, there's a lot of bolts and screws and nuts and things. Go through those and keep those tightened.
Yes. A good way to tell if anything's loose on your bike is just to pick it up and drop it on the ground. Not from high.
Yeah.
Just like a few inches.
Gentle bounce.
And if you hear a rattle, that means something's loose. It could just be a little bolt. And you can just take a set of, usually bikes are metric, so a set of metric wrenches and go around and tighten everything. But yeah, usually just the rattle test is good enough.
And bikes should not make noise when you're going down the road.
They should not.
And you mentioned already the brakes. Check the brakes. What should we look for?
Always check the brake. Well, if your brake lever can pull all the way to the bar, it doesn't work. That's not safe. Other than that, if you feel comfortable checking your own brakes, check the pads if you have rim brakes. Check the pads to make sure they don't have any metal shavings in them. You can usually just pull those out with a little scalpel or a little pick. If you have disc brakes, you want to make sure you still have a couple millimeters of pad material left. But these are also things that bike shops will do in a general checkup too. But yeah, if your bike is making weird sounds, that's when you want to check it out. It shouldn't make a bunch of noise when you're braking.
Yeah.
It shouldn't make a bunch of noise when you're shifting. It doesn't matter if you have rim brakes or disc brakes. It just if there's noise, then you want to look at it.
Yeah, something's going wrong.
Yeah.
And let me double back to the drivetrain. And we mentioned chains, but some of the bikes now that you're kind of going to belts.
Yeah.
What does that involve?
So belts last a long, long time, and that's one of the nice things about them. You don't have to service them as often. You do still want to keep them clean because they are rubber and they'll last longer if they're clean. And all of the shifting is either in the hub on those, an internally geared hub, or it's in a gearbox under the bottom bracket, but near the pedals. So those need to get lubricated, and those are something that you need to bring to a bike shop. There's a lot of specialty tools involved, and a lot of things that could go wrong if you want to just pry it apart in your house. So I would say if you've got a belt drive, keep it clean, and it will last you a long, long time. But I'm a big fan of just getting annual checkups.
Yeah, and in just your descriptions, I kind of see the wisdom of that just naturally. And you're looking out for your customers and their safety as you go.
Yeah.
I like that. So how about learn to fix a flat and other basics?
Oh, I used to do clinics that were fix-a-flats a lot. I did them at PSU, and I used to do them for Peabot, and I did them at my shop a few times. But pandemic, haven't done them. But yes, fixing your own flat is a very important thing to know, just because if you're on the side of the road and you can't call someone, and you just want to get going again, you have to know how to fix a flat, and it's usually so simple. So yeah, learning how to fix a flat is very important. Sometimes you can get a bike shop to teach you how to do it if they're not too busy. But there are a lot of good YouTube videos that you can just watch too. At just getting the right size tube. The most important thing is making sure you check the tire, so you don't just take the old tube out and put a new one in, because that thing that caused the flat might still be in there.
Yes.
It could be just like a tiny little pin prick, but it'll give you another flat right away.
Good tip. And we had a friend in the bike club that had a flat tire, didn't really know how to fix it, and yeah, literally on the side of the road pulled up YouTube and was watching a video and starting to fix it when another club member came back and helped her. But that is a solution to get you back on the...
There's so many things you can YouTube these days. It's great. It really is.
Yeah. And you need to have the right stuff with you too.
So yes, you need to have a pump or a CO2 cartridge. And I usually bring a pump, because CO2 cartridges are great, but they're like a one-time use only. So I usually just carry a little pump and a tube, and then tire levers. And tire levers are just little plastic things about this big, usually come in sets of 2. And they just help pry off the tire.
Yeah.
So that it's easier to get off.
So it's not much, but it's critical to getting rolling again.
Yeah, and usually you can get a little seat bag that sits under your seat post and put all those things in there, and then you're just ready to go all the time.
Or in my case, a big seat bag, but I just don't travel light. And like you've been saying, get the bike serviced periodically. You know, don't wait till everything breaks, just have it looked at periodically.
Yeah, it's definitely better for everyone, mechanic, rider, if you just bring it in more frequently. That way we're not having to replace your bottom bracket, your all of your parts all at once, or we can maybe service those parts instead of them going in the trash. So I would say if you're riding a lot, if you're riding all winter in the rain, come in every 6 months. If you're more of a fair weather rider, once a year. It really does depend though. Like if you're a fair weather rider but you ride 100 miles a week, then you need to come in more often. But just stopping by whenever you think that there's a little something going on, we would rather see it then than when there's really something going on.
Yeah.
So
like anything we own.
Yeah.
And put off, procrastinate. So not everyone wants to buy a new bicycle or can afford a new bicycle, even wants a new bicycle. What advice do you have for people that want to shop for a used bike?
Craigslist is your friend, but I would say go ask if you have the means to ask a friend that knows something about bikes. Show them what you're about to buy. Just send them the link. Also, the community cycling center is great. They have a lot of used bikes. They sell them for reasonable prices. North Portland Bike Works is the same. They sell reasonably priced used bikes. Other than that, Craigslist is a really good option, especially in Portland. I see so many good listings all the time. You just want to make sure that the bike fits you. So be able to take it on a test ride first. Don't buy something without seeing it. The used bike market here is good because there's so many people that ride bikes that get new bikes that sell bikes. So there's also a Facebook group called Portland Bike Market.
Yes.
That's really good. And then if you're a member of the Oregon Bicycle Racing Association, you can join the Oregon Bicycle Racing Association Google group that is buy-sell also.
Yeah. Okay, and the Portland Bike Market is good too for gear. And clothing or maybe shoes, things like that sometimes.
That too, yeah.
Yeah, because people stop riding or getting something
or get new. Something, yeah, and like even companies that are local, like Showers Pass, once or twice a year has like warehouse sales.
Yeah.
Those are things to look out for.
My son had the joke that I got him the waterproof socks at Showers Pass, and he says, "Yeah, they're waterproof." I stepped in a puddle, and my foot was in a puddle of water the whole time because of water. Okay, so I said, well, I'll forget about that, and in 2 years I'll get you another pair of socks. So if you had a magic wand, I like to ask people this question. If you had a magic wand and time and money was not an issue for you, what would you change in our bicycling community here?
I would get rid of the I-5 corridor through Portland.
Just to open up the city and...
Yeah, I mean, even if you think about it from a non-bicycling aspect, it's how good, I would get rid of the 405 too. So if you could think about how beautiful it would be, the Willamette and the Esplanade and all that stuff, it would be amazing, and it would I think it would make the city much better. And then just reroute the I-5. Just put it on the 205. You know?
I think a lot of people would agree with you, even non-cyclists would agree that it would bring more community back too. Because you have this big cement thing separating everybody.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of bad history.
There is.
So yeah, that sounds like that's fun. I like that. Why should people investigate bicycling? What do you get out of it? What do you encourage people to try to get out of cycling?
I think that it's just a really nice way to explore your surroundings or other surroundings. It's when you're on a bike, it's easier to be like, oh, that store looks cool, and just pull over and lock up and go inside the store instead of driving around trying to find a parking spot. Or just a really nice way to like explore your city. Like you can just ride through the most beautiful parts of town, and you don't have to be like white knuckling, looking around. Where am I gonna turn?
Yeah.
You can just ride and
really see it.
And really see it, because you're not going so fast. You're not looking at your phone for directions, or you can do like bike tours and cross-country things, or go to a new city and bring your bike, or rent a bike there and go around that way, where it's same thing, where you don't have to like find a parking spot if you like see this restaurant that has 5-star reviews and you want to go into. It's just like small things like that. It's not, you don't have to make it your whole lifestyle.
Yeah.
You can just have it be, for me, I feel like it makes life easier sometimes.
Well, Rachel, thank you for joining us. The whole interview has just been encouraging about our community and what you're doing, and I hope you are able to keep at it. I hope this pandemic goes away so you can get at it. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you
for having me.
So I hope you've gotten something out of her passion too, and it's kind of catching, I think. I hope you've come to appreciate this entrepreneur in our midst, and so much more. She brings so much more. So by riding with others, you can improve your skills. Like Rachel was talking about, you can learn new routes around town, learn to ride in groups, learn about other rides, and just kind of build a community with events and make new friends. So as we're moving into fall, make sure you've got your lights on your bike and your helmet properly fitted, and make sure that your lights maybe blink. Solid lights are great, but it's been a study has shown that blinking lights are the best. So light yourself up. Thanks for joining us.